Body to the January 10th meeting of the Jeffco Airport Advisory Board. We're getting called to order right now at 5:05, and we'll do a quick roll call. With our roll call, because we've got some new members, we're going to do some quick introductions as well on that. And so I'll kick it off as the chair now of the advisory committee. I'm Jansen Tidmore, President and CEO for the Jeffco EDC.
My name is Paul Hoisington. I'm a member of the Beaumont Metropolitan Board. Candelas right here, also live right near the airport.
I'm John Marriott. I serve on the Arvada City Council, and I'm an Arvada resident, and I was a previous member of this board.
And I'm James Einoff. I live in a neighborhood called Skystone, just down here south of the airport. I'm a retired Northwest pilot. Lots of other weird things.
Thank you. And then, so we have two staff members. So, hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Corbo, and I'm the CFO of Jefferson County, and currently I'm acting as the airport director in the interim, and we'll give a bunch of updates later, but really happy to see you all here, so thank you. And then I also have Ben Miller here with us today. Ben?
Yep, Ben Miller, Finance and Development Administrator, and I've been serving this board since it started almost.
Well, great. We're right before we go into public comments. I'd be remiss if I didn't say it looks a little different. There is four of us on this committee now, on this advisory board. All four are present. We are here with the quorum. I do want to give an acknowledgement and a sincere thanks to Phil, John, Randy, and Joe that were serving that have now resigned from this. They were really great assets to this board. I thoroughly enjoyed getting to know them on this, and hopefully if they're listening or no, I just want to express how much I appreciate their service to this board. So we're going to go next into public comments. Just as a reminder, 3 minutes per speaker. We're going to keep the timers on here because we've got a lot of people signed up. We've got a lot of 30 minutes on this. I'm going to start with those that are in the room, and then we'll go to those online that want to comment. So first up on the list, and if I butcher your name, I apologize in advance, but we've got Alan Frobeter. Perfect.
And when you come up for public comment, if you could actually come to this section here, so that people online can hear you.
That way.
You can face whatever direction, but speaking from here helps. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alan Frobeter. I've lived in Rock Creek for almost 30 years. When I bought my house, less than 2 miles from the end of the runway, I was fully aware that it was a growing, vibrant airport. And the overhead traffic actually inspired me to get my pilot's license. And now I'm based out of here. I fly Baron 58, which requires 100 octane fuel. So I want to thank Jefferson County and the Rocky Mountain Metro Airport for accelerating the transition to 100 unleaded. You know, lead's obviously a good thing to get out in the environment. Now that there's a safe substitute available, I'm happy to see that happening a little bit ahead of schedule. So I think that's a really good thing. I heard a lot of feedback about lead in the environment around here. You know, just a couple of data points. When I know Superior tested the soils, and there's no elevated level in the soils that they found there. Some households in the area found something like 5.5 micrograms, and I didn't actually see the reports, but I'm assuming that's 5.5 micrograms per square foot, which is about 5% of the EPA threshold for windowsills. But the whole thing and the whole discussion of testing got me curious. So I got a test kit and went and properly collected 10 samples at the far end of the runway in the neighborhood, straight down the departure end of 1, 2, left and right. So I took samples at the schools, the parks, the gyms, the pools, and I sent those into a certified lab. And I came here to talk to you just to share the news. All of those tests came back negative for lead at a 2.5 microgram to 5 microgram threshold. So I just, again, wanted to share that, try and take some of the pressure and concerns off of the community as this airport transitions over to 100 lead. Unleaded.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your diligence. Yeah.
Next up, we have Brad Walker.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you folks here. I do not have prepared comments today, unfortunately, so I'll try to keep my comments germane. Brad Walker, I live in Superior. Some of you folks know me. I'm a pilot. I fly out of here. I think now is a good time to reflect on because there's been so much change. We lost an airport director. We've lost several members of the airport advisory board. So there's probably a good opportunity to reflect. I know that the general aviation community desperately wants to have a voice at the table. And I think that we feel like that hasn't always been the case. So hopefully going forward in your endeavors to find a new airport director, you can include that voice, because it's your constituents. We pay taxes here, we vote here, so it's very important. As for the board, I know that there's going to be some new members coming, and I know that we all serve, you folks serve at the discretion of the Jefferson County Commissioners. It is going to be really important that I think we stay focused on the rules and the regs, the laws, because as you're probably aware, my neighbors in Superior have decided to sue the airport at the end of December. That's a big deal. I know that we have a town of Superior trustee in the audience, and they're actively looking at suing the airport for other issues. In addition, I know that the original lawsuit that enabled all this is from the HOA that I'm a member of. I know that they're actively looking for another lawsuit. So my point in telling and bringing this to your attention is, if we stay focused on following the FAA rules and regs, as well as the federal laws, and uphold those, then we're going to be okay. But it's going to be a rough ride ahead. And unfortunately, that's the future that we're faced with. Hopefully we can navigate that in a positive way. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. James Wood.
Hi, folks. My name's Jim Wood. I've been flying out of this airport since 1978. I have an aircraft here that I fly. I'm also the president of the Experimental Aircraft Association's Chapter 43, which is Broomfield and Erie. We have about 150 members. And I'm also an active member with the Jeffco Aviation Association, the pilot group here. And I just want to ask at this time, as Brad just said, with the churn that's going on, I think it's critical that the GA community, the pilot group, the stakeholder group, which is pretty significant of this airport, kind of the silent minority, I suppose you'd say, has an active role in selecting the next airport director. I don't know how it's done. We don't know how it's done. If it's a backroom kind of deal or it's a little more public, at least get our voices heard from our perspectives, because we're pretty key stakeholders here. Similarly, with those 4 board or advisory board openings, I would like to suggest that maybe an additional board position be open for the GA pilot community. Okay, I know there's a lot of external, like community representation and business representation and so forth. I would love to see a 9th board permanently be a GA pilot representative, whether it's JAA or whoever, I don't care. And then I'd also love to see some transparency on how those board members are selected as well. So that's my request to the group. Thanks for the comment, opportunity.
Thank you, Jim. Kirk Brennan.
No comment.
Okay. Wayne Gibson.
I apologize. I just signed in because the guy in front of me.
Okay. We're moving right along here. All right. I believe it's Marlon Mosley.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Okay. We're just gonna keep a trend going here. Kyle Hickman.
Heckman, yes, sir. I'll hop up here like a wounded rabbit and lean on my crutches and try and address both audiences here, but not at my best at the moment, but I did want to be here this evening. My name's Kyle Heckman. I've been a tenant here at the airport for about the last 20 years or so, and great to see a lot of familiar faces here. Great to see the turnout. I hope this is the new normal. And I was part of a group that met for a couple hours before this meeting, actually, just about the many and various issues that are facing our airport and facing us as pilots and aircraft owners and airport tenants. And as you all know, the list is long and distinguished, but I think working together, we can find some good solutions to a lot of these problems. We all want to live our best life. That's what I keep coming back to here. And that looks a little different for each of us, but I think that's just a key touchstone of trying to understand the various positions and A lot of what I was going to say has already been said by Brad and Jim as well, but I too have an interest in the selection of the next airport director. As much, appropriate participation as we can have in these types of meetings with the Airport Advisory Board, I think it's just going to be very good and constructive. There's a lot of institutional memory and history in the room, and I think it's important to keep drawing on that as well. So I'll yield the floor here, but I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Kyle. Warren Salt.
Oh, I'm Warren Salt. I'm an owner of Rocky Mountain Aircraft Services. We service small aircraft on the field, employ a number of people here, and I'm a little concerned about where things are going with the airport and the lawsuits and everything else. The first thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is lead, which I think has been completely addressed, but I'll add on that I think all of us are in support, even from a maintenance perspective, that lead is not a great thing for engines and maintenance and all the crud it puts into an airplane, even though it may be slightly more expensive. I don't think there's many airplane owners that are not willing to look at getting rid of lead and would actively embrace that. So it's a good thing, it's coming. It may take a little bit of time, but there are people working on it. I think we just have to be patient. I don't think lawsuits around lead are gonna be productive, as they're gonna drag out long enough, it's gonna happen anyway. So I really think that's kind of a wasted effort. The writing's on the wall, it's coming. So the other thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is the new airport manager. I would love to understand the process, be part of the process. I'm here on the field every day. I employ people on the field. It's critical to my personal well-being and a number of my employees. So the more transparent we can be with that, it'd be great. If you need any help, if there's anything I can do to be part of that, I'd love to volunteer for that as well. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Warren. Mike Sutton.
Good evening. Largely echoing what's already been said. My name is Mike Sutton. Live in Jeffco for quite a while. Been flying out of Rocky Mountain Metro for about 30 years, 10-ish year. Lived most of those years in Jeffco as well. Echoing what's been said here, just very interested in the process of selecting a new director. Interested in kind of what the advisory board selection process is. Does it make sense? That's in the tenant and GA community to represent, and how do we do that? And what makes sense there? Mainly echoing what's already been said. So thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mike. Jim Sutton.
Jim Sutton, been flying out of the airport now for at least 35 years. Own a port-to-port hangar and member of AOPA, EAA, JAA. And the one request I would have is that the board, let JAA or some of our organizations have a little bit of input into the new director.
All right, we'll turn to online comments.
I just have one. Kevin Ryan, I am unmuting you now.
Thumbs up or say something if you got me.
We can hear you.
All right, thank you. First, I'll start by introducing myself. Same way I do at a lot of Jeffco meetings, which is as your neighbor. Provide the same level of respect that I'm sure each of you will provide to your own neighbor and ask for the same in return. 3 things this evening. Number 1, I want to thank you. I'm sure you all received, every member of the board received calls and emails with suggestions and probably some not so subtle, gentle prodding for you to also resign in protest. The fact that you each decided to stay speaks to your individual character. Being an advisory board member is hard, thankless work. Your efforts are greatly appreciated by your community. Number 2, I suggest we use this board and the refresh of the board to influence direction, not just for approval and awareness. When I look back at previous AAB meetings, I see this board traditionally being on the receiving end of presentations. Some good questions get asked, but I don't recall observing a pivot or alternative strategic direction being offered. The very intent of this board is to shape strategic direction for ultimate decisions by the Jeffco commissioners. For example, at the last meeting, you discussed the budget in the Verve Metro District. I'm not sure that this board, or really anybody at Jeffco, fully understands the intricacies of a metropolitan district, the shifting boundaries, obligations for public improvement, its impact on the requirements for our MMA financial stability, or most importantly, the requirement for continued FAA grant funding when private developers and industrial parks are involved. Which leads me to my third and final comment. Be inquisitive. In the coming weeks and months, you're going to hear about deceptive practices from airport stakeholders historically. These won't just be allegations, but based on facts. Members of the community have found these things, and they all could have been identified by this board or others in a leadership position. Examples will include how noise contours have magically changed from one document to another, despite no actual noise modeling. How FAA grant applications have included knowingly falsified information on projected operations. How important land use documents that undergo rigorous review and sworn testimony get replaced with less important working documents and misrepresented as governing documents. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak this evening. I hope you will consider these comments with the intent by which they have been offered, improving the good and necessary work of this board. I'll email these comments along with my contact information in the event anybody has questions.
Thank you. I know we also have online Commissioner Kraft Tharp, who would like to make a few comments as well.
You are unmuted, Commissioner.
Commissioner,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
we can.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm Tracy Kraft Tharp, and I'm the Jeffco County Commissioner out of District 1, which is the north area of Jefferson County. I'm also the Jefferson County member on the Community Noise Roundtable. And I'm on today to participate in this meeting and would like to say thank you to all of you for serving on our Airport Advisory Board. It's very important that you are with us, that you're using your expertise to help us provide direction to the airport. So I just want to say thank you very much. We really appreciate your time and your dedication. And thanks, Ben and Stephanie, for being there tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more online? I'll give one all call to the group before we close public comments.
I just had one thing I forgot, which is maybe I'm not familiar with the process, but I know in the past, it's been very difficult to locate the recordings of these meetings online. Are those available or could they become available in the future? I think that'd be very helpful if one misses a meeting to be able to access the recording. And I know that's the case for many other meetings, but I haven't found it to be the case for this one.
Yeah, so we started recording them in COVID when we went virtual, and so I have them, and when people ask for the recording, I've shared it, but I think I should start. I've gotten enough requests now that I probably need to find a way to just post them on the website going forward. I want to work with the county clerk to structure that better, but yes, we'll get them up there.
Yeah, and if I can just kind of comment on that. So we have a list of things we want to actually improve on our website, but our whole county website is changing. And so we're really just kind of updating the bare minimum right now, but we're realizing that there's more information that needs to be shared. So as this transition for a new website happens, there are things that we're going to start putting out there, and this is a request that's coming up. But that's sort of why we haven't done more at this point in time. It's not a great reason, but it's kind of like that balance of like all that's going to get like just trashed and then start over. And so anyway, but this is important. So we'll definitely take care of that. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we'll close public comment. So before we move on to the business items, in our packet and what was posted, the minutes from the last meeting were in there, but we failed to put it as an agenda item. I would ask the board, if you're willing to do so, to amend the agenda to add the approval of those minutes, and then we'll actually approve the minutes themselves.
So I'll move we add to our agenda the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So I'll also move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting as submitted.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. We'll move on to our first business item, the Airport Advisory Board member recruitment. I think, Stephanie, we're turning it over to you for this one.
Thank you so much. Okay. So just so you all know that we do have a 7-member board with 1 alternate. And so we did have 3 board members resign as well as the alternate resigned. And so currently we have 4 board members. And in order for us to do business for quorum, we have to have 4 in place. So 4 out of 7 is more than 50%. So we do have quorum. We are looking to fill 4 vacant seats. 2 of them are business owners within the airport influence area, and we can certainly send out that map of what that includes. Also an airport tenant. And so I know that there was a comment about general aviation. And so if there's someone that's a tenant in general aviation that would like to apply to be on the board, that would be a perfect spot, as well as the alternate position. The process and timeline is that the application for these board member spots will open on January 16th, and they will close on January 31st. That goes through a review process. Applications are submitted and get reviewed for criteria. And so we look at like addresses, making sure someone's a tenant. We do some of those types of reviews. And then those get sent to our Board of County Commissioners for review. And then they have the final say-so and recommendation. Once they agree on who those members are for those positions, they do final appointment and approval for voting on that on March 5th. So if you would like to attend to watch them talk through and see who applied for these positions, February 27th is the first time they talk about that publicly. And then they talk about, who they would like to be in those member spots. And then their final appointment of that is on March 5th. Okay?
Are those discussions open to the public?
Anyone can come from the public as well to make comment. Absolutely. And that's maybe something that we need to talk about just based on some of the feedback that we have today. So I'm going to take that back as an item and figure out how to look at that review process. But certainly at any public hearing, public comment is always available for you to come in and talk about any topics, which would include, board member appointments. Yes.
Where do you find the applications?
That's a great question.
So they are online under committees on the Jeffco website. They will have openings and vacancies, and they'll have a number of committees. And you can click on the one for the airport, it'll take you to an online portal there.
Thank you. Great. Okay.
I will denote on that for those that are interested in this, because, our Board of County Commission has a lot on their plate. They meet every Tuesday at these briefings and hearings, and it's posted out there a week in advance. And so if you are interested in those comments and the documents, they are out there. They're all on the website. They're all part of those hearings and those meetings, and they happen every single week. And so all of that is out there and can be reviewed. And typically, you don't have a whole lot of people show up and make comments on those committees, but it is an opportunity that is available to you. And those names that submit are always public. So when you go in and submit your name for that, that becomes part of the public record out there. So all things to be mindful of. And it's very transparent, but it's also for maybe someone that doesn't live in the world of government, it could be a tedious task to find because there is so much there when you're looking at these committees and these appointments.
Thank you.
Stop.
Yep. Okay.
All right, next item, airport director recruitment process.
So this one is, we have decided to use a consultant, and I really wish I could share who that consultant was, the recruitment firm. So we did go out for quotes, and we met with 3 different firms, and the firm that we are going to work with does airport administration recruitment specifically. And so they have a candidate pool of over 60,000 airport administration. When after talking with them, they already had 12 possible candidates that could meet the criteria that we were looking at just initially, which was very different than the other firms that didn't ever fill an airport director position, and then also would have to go out and actually find people to come and apply for this and maybe have, a couple. And so once we have that contract signed, I will definitely be excited to share who that is. But I can't do that right now for procurement. And just so you know, this process we said was expected to take 3 to 6 months, so I just want to explain that a little bit. Once we have the signed contract and they get started, that from that point in time, it's 3 months, and that's to make an offer. And then once we have the offer, it's really dependent upon the candidate on where they live and what type of, resignation process timeline they have in order for them to take the role. So that could be anywhere from 2 weeks to a couple months. We just don't know. So that's sort of the timeline we have. We are expected to get started hopefully within a week or two. We're very close to getting that contract signed. And that process in government does take just a little bit longer, just so you know. One of the things we're really excited about this firm for recruiting the airport director is that they work with airports specifically, knowing that there's a lot of concern with community and growth of the airport and this whole balance. And so what they do really well is the public engagement process. And so we can give them different individuals to talk to, different groups to talk to. So this can include business owners, HOAs, tenants at the airport. It's definitely going to include our Board of County Commissioners, obviously our airport staff, other leaders in the organization. It can also include if other municipalities are interested and other towns and surrounding counties and things like that. So we believe that this is the right thing to do to make sure that before we even come up with an airport recruitment brochure, that we have feedback from all the parties who want to participate in this process. And so we'll talk through the timeline when this recruiting firm would have the chance to have those conversations, reach out to all of those stakeholders that want to actually have a voice in the process. They'll set up time, whether it's in a group, one-on-one, to make sure that those conversations happen. From there, after those conversations take place, the recruitment brochure will be put together, and then it'll get solicited to not only their database, but also contacting people who are interested in the type of role we're looking for. From there, once the position is posted, it's open for 1 month. And then during that 1 month process, we're reviewing applications and things like that. After that process, we're going to have both an internal and an external panel to interview the candidates, the top candidates. And then what we haven't finalized, but we're talking about, that's worked really well with this firm, is once we have the final 2, if there's 3, but probably final 2, we'd like to hold an outward-facing town hall so that the final 2 candidates, community members, leadership, have the opportunity to really get to know them and weigh in on just sort of their values and who they believe would be the right fit for that airport director. And that'll be definitely maintained to make sure no negative comments about past airport administration and past problems are being projected on this person. So we'll set expectations for that. But that public engagement is really involved, and we think that it's really important as we move forward with this airport director.
Stephanie, is there a way we can ensure that our particular organizations will be interviewed?
Yeah, so we're gonna open up, we're gonna figure out how to open up so that you can be able to tell us that you want to be a part of that process. And then you may have all gotten like a 24-hour reminder notice of this meeting. And if you're on the constant contact, we can also have that constant contact that Ben sends out as a informational update about that as well. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, informational updates on that same process. Will you be able to find these on your website that are posted for public engagement? Or are you just going to be doing this through the Rocky Mountain newsletter to state to everybody, hey, this process is starting, public engagement is going to be held here? Are you going to be doing it through a newsletter, or is it something that we need to find on your website?
I think the answer to that is probably both. We'll put it as a news item on the website, and because I know not everyone is subscribing to the RMMA newsletter, but if you're not and you get an email from me, it's the link to sign up is in that, or otherwise come see me, because I'd love to have anyone who wants to know about what's going on at the airport be getting those. But I'm sure there'll be other ways that we advertise that, including Jefferson County communication channels as well.
So we can have it though for sure on our airport.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will for sure put it on our airport website. Yeah. Yep, great question, thank you. So anyways, that's the recruitment process. And we are very excited about the public engagement piece of that. Okay. So just so you know, there's a lot of things going on at the airport. We do have an amazing leadership team, with Brian Bishop and Ben Miller and Brandon Burns, and they're continuing to do their day-to-day. But just in this transition, as we look for an airport director, if you do have concerns about the airport, please contact me. The team is handling day-to-day stuff on airport grounds, but if you do need something and you would normally go to Paul, I'll be serving as the interim, just until we have this position filled. And the team is handling things on a day-to-day basis. But if you're working through things and you want to talk through, please reach out to me. And my email address is just scorbo@jeffco.us, and we can certainly make sure that that's on the website as well. But airport operations are proceeding per normal, so anything that's already in the pipeline, that's already been approved, all of those things are continuing per usual, including all the great work that was happening around the transition to unleaded fuel, as well as the work that Ben Miller and Tracy Kraft Tharp are doing on the Community Noise Roundtable. And so those things are continuing to happen. If you do have any kind of airport questions, so just general, administration or finance, if you're working with Brandon Burns, continue to work with Brandon Burns. Anything related to operations and maintenance or any kind of like equipment usage that you have at the airport, just continue to reach out to Brian Bishop, just like you normally would. And then, of course, Ben, he's really over all of our communications. He does a great job. Also, airport development and planning. So if you've been working with him on some projects, continue to do that. And we've been having progress and have meetings and things about development as well. So just wanted to give you that quick update as well. Before we move on to projects, I do want to apologize for trying to get that last airport meeting scheduled. With all of the things that were going on, we heard a lot of rumors, and so we were trying to just get in front of it. And unfortunately, Joe and I didn't have the chance to come out to the airport, so we tried to find 1 hour block of time that worked for us and that worked for the board members to get together. And just the logistics of actually getting the audio stuff set up at a different location for Ben and everything, it just ended up not working out well and created a really bad perception. So I wanted to give an update about the recruitment for the airport director, as well as just interim operations was my intention. That didn't go well, so I just want to apologize if that caused any kind of angst for anyone. But then we also had some additional items to add, so I'm kind of happy that it worked out for this month. And then if you did get the reminder from Constant Contact 24 hours ago about this meeting, just know that if that felt like you needed more time, we do have that posted and did post the meeting on January 4th. And so if you want to get plugged in so that you have more preparation time of knowing when this meeting is, talk to Ben, because really that was just a reminder. And I know sometimes we need more than 24 hours to plan, so we'll get you plugged into communication as well. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And just while we're on this, a big sense of appreciation to Ben, Brian, and Brandon. Anytime transition happens, it's tough, and you guys have been rock solid through this, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
We'll turn it over to 2024 airport project updates.
All right, some of these you've heard before, but they keep coming up in public comment, so I think it's good to address them and kind of give current status. Unleaded fuel is one of the topics. As you've probably all heard, we did purchase a truck. And we are in the procurement process to purchase a big tank to go down to fuel farm, kind of like that picture up there in the upper right. We're in the design of that right now. Our airport engineers actually have to design the pad and how it gets installed, and then hopefully we're off to procurement for the purchase of a tank later this spring, and that's installed sometime this summer and fall, and we're up and running and selling unleaded fuel sometime here in 2024. Any questions on that one?
That tank, is that going down by the current fuel farm, or is there an additional skid?
Correct. There's a available space, we believe, down there.
Is that by heli-quest trucks?
Don't quiz me on the exact location, please. Yes, there's an available pad down there. I think Signature wasn't using one, so we'll take that.
We got a price per gallon estimate or not?
I wouldn't want to guess that now, because I've heard, twice as much to 10 cents more a gallon. And I think it's just because it's scaling so quickly. Who knows what it'll be when we actually are selling it later this year. We've heard the worst case scenario was a couple of years ago and how much it cost then, but now it seems better.
Is that gonna be directly sold by the county, or who's gonna administer that?
That is not our goal. We'll work with one of the FBOs on the field to be the actual supplier of the fuel.
Typically, the truck is gonna be a little bit more expensive than self-serve, given that most of the aircraft that are gonna be 94 are gonna be it's closer to the self-serve, or are they gonna be the full?
I think it's too early to tell based on, costs of getting the fuel and the arrangement we come to with the FBO. So more to come on that one. I wish I had more info.
I would only like to add that if you let it out that you have this unleaded fuel, that it cannot be used in every plane.
Correct.
So the public needs not to hear that you haven't, oh, the world is changing. Because a lot of planes cannot use it. So if you make sure that no statements come out that you have it and everything is A-OK, and other people have ruled the world on what we're doing. That would not help the airport at all. Thank you.
I would just make one comment about this. We don't really have all the financial details. But what we are doing is we're purchasing as large of a fuel tank as we can, because the more you buy, the cheaper it is, like per gallon. And what we're doing is we're trying to make it as economical as possible so that it is an easier transition, but we don't have those details. And so as we go through this process, and if you can continue to come to the meetings to kind of share your input about this, we can kind of figure this out together to make sure it makes the most sense.
Just to be clear, 100 loads are still gonna be sold here.
Correct. Yep. Until there's no market demand through the FBOs or when it's mandated to be phased out through the EPA and FAA. A project I'm personally excited about as a planner who loves numbers and modeling and things like that is the Part 150 study. For those who don't know, it's a FAA defined process on how you model noise at an airport. This has been requested by some community members for a long time, and we, as an airport, didn't really want to spend the kind of $2 million or so estimated cost to do it on our own. But the FAA has come through with grant funding to allow us to do that. So that is also coming out. We're issuing an RFQ to find a consultant here in early 2024, and hopefully that study is underway later this year. We'll be looking to have some airport advisory board members and perhaps some noise roundtable members on the selection panel for that consultant. There's a handful of consultants who actually know how to do that highly technical work, but it'll be a good process for people to go through for transparency. And it's kind of a fascinating process. Centennial has gone through it, so you can actually go look at their Centennial Part 150 report, and I'd say even more importantly is the FAA response to it. So you can see from the FAA's eyes how they view recommendations from an airport and a community, and what they do is acceptable or not acceptable, and what's possible. So it's a 2-year process, and it'll certainly involve public involvement. We'll be bringing it to the airport advisory board and the noise roundtable, and ultimately becomes an airport noise compatibility plan with recommendations on what you can do and how you can do things to remediate, the impacts of noise from the airport.
And does that, study have to be refreshed every so many years?
Yep, there's updates that are required. I think Centennial is going through an update right now, and so they're actually like a few months ahead of us in the process. So if you track with the public engagement they're doing right now, I think they have a meeting now. It just happened or is about to happen. But I think it's kind of a 5-year time frame for updates.
So, somebody in one of the noise roundtables said that they're collecting noise data in some of the neighborhoods. Has that been shared with the airport?
Not to my knowledge.
I understand that you got, some FAA funding for this, but going forward, will the, study maintenance in the future come out of the airport's budget, and will that reduce funding for other, items at the airport?
There's a chance of that. My understanding is Centennials. So one of the recommendations from the Centennial Part 150 is that they actually do noise monitoring and have, you know, microphones out in the community. And my understanding is that was paid for a couple of years through an FAA grant as part of the Part 150, but then it was taken on as a cost by the airport. So depending on the recommendations, some recommendations might, you know, create ongoing costs for the airport. Others actually create kind of community recommendations that are eligible for FAA funding. And so that's when you hear people talk about better insulation, better windows, things to, you know, improve the sound quality inside your home. Those things become eligible for FAA funding.
And in your planning process, have you made plans of what's gonna get cut out of the airport budget to fund this?
I would say there's nothing being cut. Our share of the funds is about 10%. So it's something we're absorbing as just a good community partner. So to give you an example of what a Part 150 map looks like in the end, really that the threshold that the FAA defines as acceptable noise levels is the 65 dNL, which is kind of that kind of outer red line. So this is Centennial's noise map. And so what they look at is land uses within that 65 dNL or closer to the airport, probably shouldn't be residential. They look at noise land use compatibility planning into the future in terms of land use plan, and how can they remediate issues that already exist. So I recommend, if you're interested in this process, go look at Centennial's Part 150 study.
Before we move on, going back to the financial piece, has there been discussions with kind of local communities to pay for part of the study or for the continuation of the studies or anything like that?
We haven't had ongoing conversations. I know some communities have been very excited for us to be doing this, but haven't offered to pay the costs, and I think we're probably all excited the FAA is stepping up to fund the initial one.
Ben, if you look just simply at that map right there, none of the communities surrounding Jeffco Airport even come remotely close to that red line in the distance. I understand it's Centennial. I'm talking about the distance. So if you look at the distance from Centennial Airport and you projected that distance from Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport, there are no communities that are within that area.
Yeah, and that's why we go through this process, and it's why there's an expert consultant to actually find it out, because there are people in this community who believe that is much wider than is currently shown on our master plan.
Hey, first of all, thanks for taking all the questions from the peanut gallery here. Secondly, there's a bunch of old men sitting back here taking pictures on our phones. Will you just share the PowerPoint?
Sure.
Of course, yeah, we can definitely do that, yeah.
Yep. All right.
All right, keep going, yeah, keep going.
All right, big project update, Sim Street. If you drive around this airport, particularly on the west side, you know this is impacting a lot of people's lives right now. I'm still being given a timeline of fall of 2024 for that road to be completed. I do know they're making great progress because this winter has so far been mild, so fingers crossed that timeline moves up, but for now it's fall of 2024. And as part of that project, I think everyone was kind of aware of the Sim Street part, but there's kind of a new connector road that'll connect to what I call existing Sims or old Sims and provides access to the control tower. That is going to be called Calendar Drive, or Doc Calendar, a former tenant here on the airfield that probably many of you know. And then as part of the work over there, we are also kicking off the construction of what we call this taxi lane that will bisect existing Sim Street. So that was under design last year. We're almost finishing up design, and so that'll probably go to bid for construction here sometime this spring. And that will really allow the development to open up on kind of near Sim Street, or existing Sim Street. Any questions there?
Excited to see it complete.
Okay. Oh, and I did have a last slide for the last one, Southside Aeronautical Development. Just a heads up, I think we mentioned this, but it went before the board in December, that ACAP, American Corporate Airport Partners, pulled out of their ground lease for approximately 28 acres on the south side of the airfield. Word got around quickly and we have a new letter of intent that was briefed before the Board of County Commissioners. And so we're entering negotiations with a group called VA Group to look at developing over on that parcel. So hopefully, or sometime this summer, we might have an actual ground lease agreement in place. More to come there.
Board, any questions? Saw a hand go up. We'll allow it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate you entertaining this. That last point did raise a question for me, just and maybe Stephanie, you and Ben can tag team this to help me understand how on public use airfield that process is reviewed. I don't remember a lot of like outside discussion about the ACAP lease. I wasn't negotiating, obviously, but it wasn't, I remember a press release, which to me seemed a little bit after the fact. Hey, we did this thing, it's great. I know that obviously you all enter into negotiations and have legal counsel and certainly that whole process needs to run its course. But on something like this, I'm just curious, do you know why they pulled out and then why the new operator is so interested and maybe then how the process.
Sure.
More general. A lot of questions there, but.
I can address that. Yeah. I guess I won't speak though why American Corporate Airport Partners pulled out, other than I've heard that, you know, their greater financing strategy and what kind of projects they undertake shifted in the last couple of years. We at the airport, we probably meet twice a month with people who are interested in building on this airfield. And my usual response is, you know, show us an idea. You know, we can talk about it, but ultimately you need to get us a letter of intent with a deposit. And then we will go to the Board of County Commissioners to give them this idea if we think it's one worth pursuing. And we compare all sorts of stuff. So we have that strategic business plan that lets us kind of evaluate what is the right type of development where. So we kind of wait for an appropriate development to come. And if they actually submit a letter of intent and are willing to, you know, put money towards due diligence, that's when we go to the level of briefing the Board of County Commissioners and spending attorney time negotiating a potential ground lease.
So just to piggyback that, the development framework that we spent pretty much all of 2023 working on and finalizing was critical to that. And that was kind of that public all call of, if you're interested in these type of developments, we've got space for you. But then it's largely up to those that are interested to come work with the team and talk about the specifics of that. So if you or someone that you're working with is interested in that development, look at that framework. There's a lot of time and energy and effort put into that to kind of be that public all call of, here's what we're looking for, and then we kind of facilitate those individual projects. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm wondering if some of the things going on around the airport, lawsuits, concerns for this and that, have encumbered the process of taking on new members of our community here.
I guess I can't speculate to the lawsuit. I'm not an attorney.
I'm just saying in general, has the interest grown or depleted or anything like that?
I think it's probably similar. I think interest in development out here kind of correlates with market demand for hangars and activity for business aircraft and fuel sales and things along those lines. So I'm not sure a developer out here would be tracking with a potential lawsuit.
I see. Thank you.
And then the other thing is just, I think in general, for the past few months with higher interest rates, so like private equity firms, the cost of capital is just so much higher that it has naturally just sort of declined. But anyone who is interested in development at the airport, we are required to entertain that. And so we go through FAA grant assurances first. That's why we have best in use kind of space and, you know, and then, so we entertain that, and then once it meets that criteria, we take it forward to the Board of County Commissioners. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Board, any last questions before we move to the next item? Saw one last hand, so we'll take one final one.
Is the master plan, and I apologize, I didn't look, but is it publicly available?
Oh, yeah, it should be. Now I'll defer back to you on where it's at, but we went through, it was really the bulk of what we did as an advisory committee in 2023. And so with each of those came those documentations, so.
Stephanie mentioned us needing to do a regional website, but they are on there. So if you go to like flyrmma.com, it's the way I do it is going to the search bar and either I type 2011 airport master plan and that'll get you to that, which is the FAA official master plan. Or if you type in strategic business plan, you'll get to a page that has the strategic business plan and the development framework.
So the company submitted the letter of intent has to fit within the master plan.
Yes,
concept.
and they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are those guiding principle documents.
They're not gonna show up and be like, we need 40 more corporate hangars right here.
All right, we're gonna move off of, business.
Or, I've been gone, but what's the story on the little runway?
3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
The little runway. I think the position of the airport has always been, since we briefly found by county commissioners, that we are not closing that until it needs to be closed, but we are not either allocating funds to, anticipate rehabilitating it in the future.
Just so you know, our past airport manager got a price from me to redo that runway to FAA standards for $3.5 million, not $14.5 million. So he knew it, and I think my feeling that somebody got led down the path.
All right, we're gonna keep moving along here. Our next, meeting date, so we would technically have a meeting on February 14th, or March 13th, given the timeline for the new appointments. And Ben, I'm gonna kind of look at you, unless you feel like there's something that's really immediate, I may recommend to us that we skip February and do the March one. But unless you feel like there's something that we need to cover in February. And I'll be quite honest, because the biggest variable is that all four of us have to be here for. That is Valentine's Day.
Right. That might be a bad choice.
And you want to stay married?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if there's something that we feel like is important, let's put that on the table now to talk about.
I'm not aware of any topics, so I probably can't wait till March. I would think the next topics might be an update on airport director recruitment and the Part 150 study, which probably March would probably be the right time for both of those.
I would agree. I don't know of anything right now, but things can come up at any point in time. And so I don't know if you all want to just have a touch base, if we want to just wait until March. Because I know that if we did need to get together, it's really hard to have a special meeting. I learned that one, but I don't know of anything. So knowing that, March would be very appropriate because we would already have board recommendations for member recruitment. Well, I'll definitely have an idea of public engagement at that point for airport director. So March would be appropriate.
My only suggestion is rather than cancel that now, do we want to go ahead and put it down and we can cancel it 2 weeks from now or whatever, if we know, and it gives them at least the ability to say, hey, something came up, we really need to
That's good.
talk
That's
to
a good
that.
idea.
Meeting's already scheduled and noticed. My only suggestion would be that we don't schedule it on Valentine's Day. Probably,
So I was looking at.
probably be a good, so my suggestion would be either a week earlier or a week later.
So I like that idea. Can we tentatively put one on then for, February 21st, knowing that if we don't have anything, we'll cancel it, and then March 13th for the one after that.
Yeah.
And then once we get the new group, we'll make sure that we get a cadence that works for everyone. We may try to keep the same cadence, but that way we at least have the chance to meet with, the 4 new members as well.
I have another board that meets the last, Wednesday or next to the last Wednesday of the month. So that gives me a problem with the 21st of February.
7th.
If I go, I'm out of.
That's the one that you'll probably cancel anyway.
Yeah, we're likely gonna cancel, but we don't need to schedule it knowing that we can't, because if one misses, it's not a meeting.
Right.
So, and I'm out of state on the 7th.
What about Thursday? Like the 22nd? Or the 15th?
Let's go 15th.
15th, does that work for everyone?
And knowing if we don't have anything, we'll cancel it, but availability is important for that. Okay. And then everybody is good for March 13th. Okay. All right, those will be the next 2. Any last comments before we adjourn? 13th, which is a Wednesday, March the 13th.
Stephanie, are you based here now, or are you still?
No, I'm still at the courts building and I'm here on Tuesdays.
Okay.
Mhm. Except for this week, I was here, I'm here a couple days. Because it's not Tuesday, right?
Any last comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 6 o'clock.
I'll move, we adjourn, 6 o'clock.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Thank you for including us.
Efficiently run too. Nice job. Yeah.
Howard.
Super.